Welcome to the regular meeting of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. It's Wednesday, February 8th at 6:04. So it looks like we have the 3-member quorum of BPAC members present, so I could call the roll, starting with me. I'm the vice chair. Member Solomon.
Present.
And member Kyle.
Present.
Okay, and nobody else is here right now. Also on this call are city staff and some consultants. I don't know if you want to introduce yourselves now or later, whichever you prefer.
Let's do the introductions as we introduce the items relative to our presentations. Thank you.
Perfect. I'll read through the thing we're supposed to read through here. So we value public attendance and participation at BPAC meetings. So thank you for attending. Viewers are welcome to provide public comment when appropriate during the meeting in accordance with the Brown Act. BPAC will not discuss items that are not on the agenda, but your comments will be noted in the meeting minutes. In some cases, the Department of Public Works staff may reach out directly regarding specific concerns, and some topics may become agenda items for future BPAC meetings. Public comments will be limited to 2 minutes, and we will hold strictly to that time limit. How this meeting will work is we'll call the agenda items, and after the agenda items are presented, we'll call on BPAC members to ask any questions, and then staff can answer those, and then we'll start giving comments, and then we'll open it up for public comment. And when public comment closes, we'll continue our discussion of that public comment until we're done. When the discussion is finished, we'll move to the next item. Since I didn't know I would be doing this, I didn't have the agenda up. Oh, I hear it's on the, I see it on the screen here. So our first agenda item is approval of meeting minutes from the regular December 7th meeting. Do any members have questions on the minutes in the meeting packet?
No.
Hearing no questions, I can open it up for public comment. If you wish to speak, use the raise hand function on Zoom and I could call on you, and remember that public comments are limited to 2 minutes.
We do have one raised hand. Susan, I'm going to allow you to speak.
Susan, you are on mute. I don't know if you want to talk about the approval of the minutes or you will have any comments under public comments. You can start speaking, Susan.
So not hearing anything, maybe I'll we'll finish with the agenda, and maybe she'll want to add in some public comments. We could come back if she'd like. So with that, if there's no one else, I'll close public comment. Are there any objections from committee members to the minutes as written?
Oh.
Yeah, hearing none, I think we could say the minutes are approved. Okay, so now is a call for public comments that are not on the agenda. So again, you could raise your hand and we'll call on you. And remember that they're limited to 2 minutes. Mark Solomon, would you mind keeping an eye on the clock for us as we do this?
Sure.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay, currently we do have 2 raised hands. I'm just going to call them in order as they pop up on the screen. First one would be Federation of San Rafael Neighborhoods.
Hi there. This is Amy Lykover. I actually am not speaking on behalf of the Federation, but because of the webinar, I'm unable to change my name. That isn't an option open to people who are not on the panel. Anyway, so I live in Gerstle Park. Hello, everyone. And I'm attending because of another agenda item, but it occurred to me that one thing that I have referred to the city and to BPAC before, nothing has ever happened, is that there is a dearth of bicycle stands, bicycle racks in downtown San Rafael. And I can tell you where I park, perhaps not now, where I park my bike, but I always have to chain it to a tree, which is really bad for the trees. I mean, so in front of Copperfields, right? On A Street near Il Davide. There's, like 5 different places where lots of people want to park their bike and there are no bike racks. So I'm putting this out to you. I'd be happy to walk with anyone on the committee or with Rafat, just to say, there should be a bike rack here. There should be a bike rack here. They don't have to be huge, but you're definitely not encouraging bicycle riding if you don't have racks. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Amy, for those comments. We can't discuss any of the comments here, although I could mention that we are about to start the 5-year master plan for BPAC, and bike parking is certainly something that we plan to look at through that. Appreciate those comments.
Next hand we have Dave Rhodes.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks, BPAC and staff for attending tonight and in your service. First off, I wanted to thank staff and the members of the community for attending and presenting a few weeks ago for the 2nd and 4th Street intersection. That project is really, really important for those in the West End and the safety of all in our community. And I was just slightly disappointed not be able to hear an update on that today. I understand we can't really officially talk about that, but I would love to hear an update from the city before the next BPAC meeting. Would really appreciate that. Secondly, unfortunately I can't make it to the entire meeting, so if you please, I would love to comment on a few of the items on the agenda. And basically, I really want to encourage you, BPAC in the city, to really look at the Safe Routes to Schools program plans that have been that I saw briefly about a week ago around Sun Valley Elementary, looking recommended to clearly state why we can or cannot have additional always stops at some of the intersections on 5th Avenue that lead to Sun Valley School. I think that would really help slow traffic down. For one, I want to mention that I have twice reoriented the sign, the 25-mile-an-hour your speed sign along 5th right in front of West End Nursery myself, because somebody keeps tweaking it and pointing it away from path of travel. So people clearly don't want to even obey the current speed limit there, which is really disappointing. Secondly, I would really encourage you on the B Street two-way conversion to adopt as many, especially low cost or no cost, bike friendly and pedestrian friendly improvements to the B Street two-way conversion, which is a project, of course, I support, and me as representative of this new organization called Walk Bike San Rafael supports. I really encourage you all to adopt as many of those as possible. How am I doing on time? Am I up?
2 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you all. Thanks for your service.
Thank you, and thanks for your comments. Before we go to the next comment, I do see that Barry is now in the meeting here. Do you want to take over running this for me?
Actually, if you wouldn't mind handling the next item, sorry, I had some computer issues and I'm just
Sure.
getting on
No
here. I'm
problem.
just trying to get oriented, so I apologize for the confusion.
Sounds good. I don't want to steal your thunder. So whenever you're ready to take it over.
We're all one happy family. Thanks.
Let the notes reflect the coup that we just had. Very sorry.
Perfect. So we have all 5 members here present. So could reflect that in the notes. And is Ann here? Is our alternate member here? No. Okay. Great. Are there other public comments?
We don't have any more raised hands.
I don't see neither. So with that, I could close public comment and we can go to the next agenda update. Hopefully we'll keep going through these quickly because I know we have a lot to talk about tonight. So
Philip, Chair Mooney or whoever is chairing this, did we get a motion, and was it seconded for approval of the minutes?
Yes, we approved the minutes with the three of us that were
All
here.
right.
I don't know
Thank
if
you.
the other two need to do that.
Thank you. I must have missed that. Thank you. Okay, let's move on.
The next agenda item are our ad hoc committee updates. The first one of those is the North-South Greenway. So I guess that's me. So I'll just continue talking here. There is quite a lot to report this month on the North-South Greenway. Again, since we have some new members, the idea with these ad hoc committees is just a way that every single meeting we're staying up to date on some important projects for us. And so we have these ad hoc committees. So I'm the North-South Greenway. And the idea is to talk about the entire North-South Greenway. So we are just up to date at what's going on, because here in San Rafael, is an important part of that. And then we could see how our section fits in with the rest. So there is lots to report this month. I will start all the way in the south at the Golden Gate Bridge and then work up north along the path. With the weather in January, there are lots of landslides on Alexander Avenue during the recent storms. So the Golden Gate Bridge District staff is currently cleaning those up. I think they've cleaned 2 of them up and there's 1 to go, but you should just travel with caution along that section of the Greenway. In Sausalito, there is progress on 2 different fronts. So the southern segment of Bridgeway, which is south of the ferry landing, is likely going to receive funding for bike lanes. The project received planning funding last year and is about to initiate that process, but it should have construction funds already lined up when planning is concluded. Parisi Consulting here is wrapping up recommendations for the segment of Bridgeway through downtown between Napa and Johnson Street that would improve pedestrian crossings and close the bike lane gap. It would still require construction funding for that, but I think it would be competitive. Moving northwards into Mill Valley, the city of Mill Valley is considering an ordinance to prohibit riders under 16 from riding a bicycle with a passenger, even if the bike is designed with 2 seats and users are obeying all the other traffic laws. It was presented to their BPAC in January and will go to their city council. In San Rafael, we have great news with the RM3 funding, got $30 million for the San Rafael Transit Center. The reason that's really important for us is as part of that transit center project will help some of the gap closure. Currently, the big gap in San Rafael in the North-South Greenway, and in my opinion, our largest problem is the area between 2nd and 5th, or 2nd and Mission, really going through downtown, and this will certainly help with lots of that. So that is really great news. It's a little bit off the North-South Greenway, but still related to San Rafael. So it's worth mentioning that the canal was recommended for $3.9 million in funding to plan a new pedestrian and bicycle crossing over San Rafael Creek between Canal Street and 3rd Street that will create a quicker connection to Point San Pedro Road. Currently, residents in the canal area have to travel at least a mile on East Francisco and cross the Grand Creek Bridge and 3rd Street to get to 3rd Street and Point San Pedro. So we'll actually be talking about that Grand Street project later today. But that's great news for San Rafael. In Novato, SMART was awarded construction funding to close the short gap on the pathway on the Bay Trail between Belmarine Keys and the Vintage Oaks Shopping Center, like over by Costco. So when completed, that gets rid of a 5-mile detour where you have to cross 2 freeway interchanges. So that will be very nice. Also, the Class 1 pathway along Roland Boulevard behind Costco is now complete. I happened to ride it earlier this week and it was lovely. Also in RM3 was some money to finish the highway expansion project in the Narrows, and a very, very small portion of that project is going to completing some Class 1 and 2 bike lanes between Novato and Petaluma. So the final thing of my long update here is about SMART overall. As at the direction of its board, SMART staff have installed automated bike ped counters at 10 different spots along the pathway, which will give accurate estimates for the number of people passing by a given spot. And also exciting is SMART has hired a new senior planner, Zoe Unruh, who is tasked with the delivery of the pathway. Until now, there has not been a staff member whose primary focus is completion of the pathway. So that is good news too. And that was a long update from me. And that's all I have. We could do questions, and let's do comment when we're done with all three of our ad hoc committees, if that's okay. So next, the ad hoc committee update for the Park and Rec master plan, whoever wants to go for that. I think
I have
that
a quick,
was
I
that.
have a, Philip,
Yes.
this is Mark Kyle. I have a question regarding that, because at the December 7th meeting, I volunteered to be on that ad hoc committee, and it's reflected as such in the minutes. However, on January 3rd, there was an email from April Miller looking for volunteers. And she was noticing that a January 9 meeting was going to take place. Unfortunately, I couldn't make that, which I let her know. But I have had zero update on that, and I'm wondering how I can plug into it so I can actually participate, or if it's done.
I could answer that question. So for this is the you're the ad hoc committee for the Parks and Rec master plan. So you don't actually need to be on that committee for any reason. You just need to report out to us what was done while we were there, like at those meetings, and read those agenda items. It just so happens that I am on that committee, so I would be happy to do this
Right.
update if you'd like for this one.
Well, considering I didn't participate, I think it would make sense. And I'm not sure who else could do it, but what is a way to actually get notice of those minutes, and rather than, who do I need to speak to on staff?
You could, maybe I'll let staff answer that, but you could sign up on the San Rafael website, certainly, but maybe Rafat can answer that better.
I'll make sure that you're added to that mailing list, Mark.
Okay, thank you. Is there someone I can follow up with, Rafat?
April is the one representing the department on that Parks and Recreation master plan. I would, if you want to reach directly to her, that's fine, but I will make sure that you're added.
Thank you.
You are.
Okay, well, so I could do the ad hoc committee update, even though I'm not really on that. So I am on that Parks and Rec master plan committee. I took the spot of Kate, used to be on it for us. They're getting towards the very final spots of that, in the end of that process. Regarding for bikes, there was a huge community response for wanting pathways and places to run and to cycle. So they are talking about that a little bit in the Parks and Rec master plan, although, most of the Parks and Rec master plan is about really improving playgrounds and fields, not so much as the bike stuff, but they are thinking of, they talked about bike parking and things like that. The real improvement that for the bike connectivity is it did seem high on the agenda to do something along the Bay Trail for a bike path in that project. I will note for bikes, they are going to have a Parks and Open Space master plan committee, which will probably start next year. And so that's going to deal with some of the open space, which is some of the hiking and mountain biking around. And so as part of that, they have not said who's going to be involved, but I certainly hope to be involved myself because it's very important to be able to ride to these trailheads safely too. So that's what I have for the Parks and Rec master plan. Let's do the Vision Zero, and then we could do questions and public comments. So can our Vision Zero ad hoc committee member chime in?
Okay, that would be me. With the Vision Zero subcommittee has not been active, and I guess I actually, Rafat, I wanted to circle back with you since we had talked about this a while back, and I know we were waiting to hear if what steps TAM was taking, and I don't know if I was wondering if you've heard any update on that lately.
We received an email, and we know TAM is working towards applying for a grant to define Vision Zero. Staff were added to that discussion that hasn't happened yet. I'm still waiting for a notice of the meeting to discuss the effort in general. The city's position from what we got when the 3 members of the Bicycle Advisory Committee started the discussion about Vision Zero about, I would say, about a year, 9 months to a year ago. They've done a lot of work, and then the city's position was to wait for TAM to define the regional approach, and then we would find out what we need to pick up to make the Vision Zero a reality in San Rafael. We have not seen what the regional direction yet. I will keep you informed as we participate with the TAM task force.
And so
Great.
is that task force just something that the agencies are participating in, or does it extend beyond that?
Honestly, I don't know what's the level of participation. I will ask the question.
Okay.
We have not had the first meeting yet. That's why.
Okay, thank you.
But I will ask the question, and if there's any room to add members from the community, I'll be in touch with you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Well, Philip, I'm more oriented now, so I'm happy to jump in.
All right, why don't you jump in and
I appreciate you.
take control.
So I'd like to jump to the next agenda item here. So the Safe Routes to School program. And
We need to offer comments on that.
on the previous.
We need to finish up
Sorry.
ad hoc committee if any committee members or public have comments, they can
Correct.
raise their hand.
Thank you. Do we have any comments?
We do have one hand raised, which is Jean Severinghouse. I'm going to allow you to talk.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you. Those were 3 impressive ad hoc committee updates, which as a community member, they're enormously important and helpful. So thank you so much. I noticed that Pete Buttigieg today was quoted as lifting up Vision Zero, and especially systems solutions, safe systems. So he's in the press today. You can find that. And then on the North-South Greenway, there's a segment that's missing south of the Corte Madera Creek that has a wonderful advance, and that is that people work together with the Corte Madera Community Foundation, the new director at SMART, and TAM, Patrick Seidler and Matthew Crew, and they got the fences removed. So you can now actually walk out Rich Street, and you can walk to the left to the trestle or walk to the right all the way down to Paradise Drive. So it's really fun, and it's beautiful, and it's cleaned up, and I highly recommend it. Thanks.
Thank you. We don't have any further hands.
Okay, great. Okay, next agenda item, Safe Routes to School program. I see we have a presentation.
I will jump in and present the item or introduce the item. David Parisi is a consultant for TAM on the Safe Route to School. Part of their mission is to identify projects and recommend those projects for funding, or pursue how the projects can be implemented. And we've been working very closely with the Parisi group and TAM, and we have 3 major projects, and I'd like to introduce David Parisi so he can take it from here.
Thank you, Rafat. Good evening. I'm David Parisi with Parisi Transportation, joined by Mac Brissell, one of our engineers. And we manage the County Safe Routes to School program. Last week, we presented at the Safe Routes to School Task Force for San Rafael. the same plans and concepts we're going to show you tonight. We informed the task force that we're going to be presenting these to the BPAC for your input and consideration. And without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and pull these up. All right, I'm going to present these in the order of the agenda, and each of these projects is at a different place. We are typically, what we do is we do a walk audit with interested parties, some of the folks in the audience, as well as folks here like Philip. We're on the walk audit and Rafat that we did at Sun Valley Elementary School. Well organized. The school's task force put it together, and the focus for Sun Valley really is on these streets that are highlighted in black on this map, including Fifth Avenue, and a couple of the key cross streets, including Happy Lane and California Avenue. We do the walk audit, sorry guys, and we take photos, we observe conditions, behaviors of the various users, including kids and parents and passing motorists, truck drivers, you name it. We know on this street that we have a lot of cyclists. We were all amazed about how many cyclists there were. Kids on cargo bikes, parents. It was wonderful. It was great to see it. But we also know that we have a constrained roadway, and that this roadway of Fifth, here's a base map that we prepared, and it has a couple panels per page, is pretty constrained. The street itself between the curbs is 32 to 34 feet, as shown here. This, again, I'm starting at the west end of Sun Valley School. You go down Fifth, you go in each direction. And Mac, my engineer, mapped this all out. We know that where the right of way is, where the width of the sidewalks are, where parking is allowed, and where parking is not allowed. But certainly what we saw on Fifth was a very constrained environment with parking on both sides of the street. Constrained sight lines in some of the cross streets, including California Avenue, where we witnessed ourselves several vehicles encroaching upon the crosswalk just to get sight lines before they entered Fifth. The city's done some quick build treatments, such as red curb and boxing out some of the areas. But what we were asked to do is really take a look and see what are some of the possibilities for this street as far as improving it for bicyclists and pedestrians. Here are two of the cross streets that we took a look at as a group. These are oriented differently, but you can see on the top, here's Happy Lane with north to the right, more or less in this case with Sun Valley School right here. Challenging crosswalks, lots of traffic here, crossing guard. Everybody goes through this crosswalk, in and out traffic, and then California Avenue by Andy's Market with some issues with sightlines and so forth. We have started brainstorming ideas for this street, and we've started discussing these with the city. And tonight we want to hear from you. After I present all these, I think we can go back and talk about these. But we're thinking this is a street that really could be beneficial if it was more balanced for the various users, including cyclists. And if sightlines were improved, speeds were pretty balanced between the different users. Some of the intersections calmed a little bit, perhaps with bulb outs and so on. So these are some of the things we're just starting to take a look at, increase some of the sightlines. Obviously because of the constrained right-of-way and the heavy parking demand that we observed out there, it's going to be very, very difficult, I think, to remove parking, except maybe at some of the intersections and where we need to do some of the traffic calming treatments. So we have some ideas for like bike boulevard kind of treatments that we want to explore a little further. If you don't mind, I'll go through all of them and we can come back. The next location is in near Terra Linda, and it's in between Trellis Drive and Nova Albion. And right here is there's a big parcel of land that is owned by the Miller Creek School District. There are two schools on it, including Vallecito Elementary School here, and then to the west, Mark Day School. Mark Day leases their land from the same school district, so it is one district that owns this entire parcel. The city of San Rafael has a little park right here on the north side of Mount Monticello. There's also a pathway that goes underneath the roadway here. We have spent quite a bit of time with parents and staff and kids from both schools, looking at some of the issues and opportunities. The biggest issue that we are facing here is that there's a one-way roadway that goes in. Actually, let me go back to the other drawing. Right here, Mark Day, the drop-off pickup for Mark Day goes behind the school and occurs in the blacktop in the back, and there's a one-way roadway. That one-way roadway, here's a picture in photo 5 showing that one-way roadway with no cars in it, which is rare during school drop-off and pickup, because typically it's full of cars. And at the same time, in this little 4-foot width here, there are kids, parents, walkers, cyclists, either going to or from Vallecito. So it's there are potential conflicts in here. There's been some short-term remedies that have been done over the years, including a little buffer and some vertical posts. So what is being considered and been brainstormed quite a bit is actually creating a class 1 pathway, possibly with a boardwalk where there's a drainage area that would intercept and be ADA compliant and be just to the outside of that road. We've got some great feedback from Vallecito to not only extend it to the tennis courts here at Freitas Park, but all the way to the school and create a nice surface for pedestrians and walkers, and cyclists. It would require some remodification of the pathway up above Mark Day's garden area, which could be done, and then also some potential work within a garden within the city's little park here. Without getting into too many details, you can see some preliminary engineering drawings show that to do that, we would require some short retaining walls. That's what these are, with little diamonds in them. Also a pathway that has gentle curves. It goes all the way to Vallecito. This profile is exaggerated vertically, but it's important that we build something like this at 5% or less of a slope to meet ADA. It isn't today. The pathways out there are very steep. This is a colored rendering that we've used to convey these ideas to some of the folks at the school district. Okay, last but not least, we have one more plan that we've been working with in San Rafael, as exciting as the others. And this was brought to us by some parents who said, oh my gosh, Venetia Valley, it's very difficult to get to Venetia Valley School, which is on Lawrence San Pedro from the west side of the highway. But lo and behold, we know that underneath Highway 101 by the smart tracks, people have made their own little path between Marydale and Civic Center Drive. And they have done so because it's pretty convenient, it's pretty direct, and it connects to a class 1 pathway that takes kids by the Jury parking lot over to Venetia Valley School. And it seems like a really cool and perfect pathway. Here are some photos of that as well. Probably the key ones are shown here in photo 2 and 3, where we're showing, yes, there is demand. There are folks that do it. Obviously, it's not a paved path. It's not ADA compliant. There's poor sight lines. There's no lighting, particularly underneath Highway 101. Right here, this is looking west. In this photo, you can see a fence right next to the piers holding up the highway. To the right of that is the smart train station, and smack dab in the middle is a utility pole of this path that is pretty well used by folks going between Marydale and Civic Center. Anyhow, we've come up with some ideas. This walk audit was really successful. It included representatives from supervisor's office, Caltrans, SMART, and the city of San Rafael, and several other folks. So we've actually laid out a potential alignment for a paved pathway, again, from about the cul-de-sac in Marydale Ave Road, which actually ends at public storage. This is all city right away through here. Going through the Smart right away to what we call Station 400, do a little swiggle, and then underneath 101 to Civic Center Drive. Some of the details on this, again, starting from the west side, include things such as we think we can get an 8-foot path in there with a very gentle grade. And as we traverse underneath or toward the highway, you can see there's a little bit of a wiggle. There are some drainage inlets and a head wall that we would have to try to minimize any impacts to. And then underneath the highway itself, that's what you're looking at here. This is Highway 101. To widen it back, if you remember from that photo I showed you just a few minutes ago, it's pretty steep, so we need to push that dirt back and create a retaining wall that would be about 3 to 5 feet high. And then again, there's some drainage work that would need to be done as we get closer to Civic Center Drive. Yeah, this one's as exciting as the others. Certainly would connect a school that has disadvantaged kids that could really benefit from this instead of having to walk underneath the highway interchange to the south. So there you go. I tried to go over these very quick. I gave you 3 different plans that are all in different states of development. And with that, I'll stop sharing and turn it back to the chair. Oh, by the way, what we're looking for is any input you may have tonight. These are concepts that have been shared with city's public works department and will be further developed and potentially used to seek grant funding in the future.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that presentation. It was very informative and definitely thought-provoking. Do we have any questions from committee members?
Questions or comments, or both?
Well, first we're opening to questions, and then we have discussions afterward.
I have a question, if I may go.
Go for it.
Looking at the 5th Avenue, Sun Valley corridor, it was a little unclear to me what your suggestions for improvement are. And perhaps I just was not able to look super closely at that map now. But were you saying that you're studying it and you're hoping to come up with suggestions, or did you have some concrete things that you wanted to put in place right away?
Great question. I'm sorry for any confusion. What we've done so far is really mapped out existing conditions and really spent time understanding some of the conditions, behavior, sightlines. We've started thinking about ideas. We know that the corridor is very constrained. We're intrigued about the idea of potentially doing some traffic calming along the street to reduce vehicular speeds, increase sightlines at intersections, and make it more hospitable for a shared environment for cyclists. So that's, to be honest, that's where we're at right now, and we'd love to hear feedback input, so then we can start getting some more concrete ideas thrown down on the paper.
Got it. Thank you.
Barry, a couple of questions.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. Hey, this is a good presentation, and I think these are important projects, so appreciate the work, Mac and David, that you're working on. Just in general, for any of these, is there any right-of-way issues involved at all, or is it you're going to be able to stay within the right-of-way the whole way on these?
That's a great question. Just again, from start to finish, we think on 5th we wouldn't have any right-of-way issues if we stay within the street. If we have to start pushing things back, it get very expensive and very hairy pretty quickly. For the concepts we showed you for Mark Day and Vallecito, almost all of that would be done as school district property. And that's owned by the Miller Creek School District. Some work would need to be done within the city park. So that's there. And then finally for that smart path, that was complicated. It's all public right of way, but it's all owned or has easements by different agencies, including the city of San Rafael, SMART, and Caltrans. And there's some gnarly utilities that we need to coordinate with.
Second question then is, for these projects, is there a budget that you're having to design to and stay within, or are you looking at this as obviously as a clean slate and going for what is the best solution, and then see what it costs?
Well, that's a great idea. So again, we work for TAM's Safe Routes to School program. The parents want to see immediate successes. So we are always looking for some low hanging fruit and what can be done in the short term, if it can be done. You know, if there's some quick build remedies or things like that, signage, striping. But you know, realistically, like the smart path, you have to go all in on something like that. So we're going to be looking at what it makes for for an engineering drawing, what the costs are going to be. And the last but not least, we have been very successful finding grant funds. So we're very aware of that. I think that's on your agenda tonight, of some recent successes. Some of these projects are the kinds that can be very competitive for long-term implementation.
Last question, Barry, if I could. On the Sun Valley project, you mentioned the traffic and the parking on both sides of the street is, the visibility is an issue. And that's, I spent a lot of time over there biking, and I can appreciate what you're saying between the vehicle traffic and the parked cars with the doors opening. It's definitely a obstacle course for me at times. One question for you. I know it would be hard to eliminate parking in front of the residents there. That would be a big issue, I'm sure. But in front of the school on 5th, headed just west of Happy Lane there, there's the white curb striping there, and parents park there all the time. And there's no parking slots available there, but they do park there. And it seems to me, I don't know if that's one area where you might consider eliminating parking. So in the bottom panel on the left side there, on the up right there, that just bottlenecks everything when I'm trying to bike through there.
Okay, see, that's the input. That's great input, because we also do know that the San Rafael City Schools has a new bond, and there's a couple schools in San Rafael, including Sun Valley and also Coleman, where they're interested in doing some curbside work and partnering with the city. So this is good input.
Okay.
Think about something.
I think what happens is the parents try and queue up around Happy Lane and the cul-de-sac there and come back around, but a lot of them just queue up right on 5th Avenue on the west side of Happy Lane there. Yeah, right along there.
Okay.
It's a nightmare for the bikers, a nightmare for traffic vehicles. It's a nightmare for pedestrians. It's a nightmare for the crosswalk guards. Everyone.
Thank you.
For now.
Thanks again, and we're taking these notes, so thank you.
I'm sorry, did you say that you had done speed surveys over there on 5th?
I think we have access to those, maybe Mac or Rafat. I'm sure we have that data, because this street has I think an engineering traffic survey. So we'll grab that information. I mean, our observations during the school time, the speeds were generally within the limit, but I'm sure there's some outliers.
Right. Okay. Let's see. So if we have no other commission questions at this point, do we have any?
No, I have a question, Barry.
Okay.
Mark Kyle.
Oh,
so just to stay on Sun Valley for a minute, David.
Yeah.
Did I understand you correctly in implying or either stating outright that because of the constraint of 5th Avenue and its width and the parking, that the probability of a bike lane or a dedicated bike lane or a bike lane of some sort isn't really feasible? Is that what you said? Or were you just commenting on the actual size of the street and that it would be a challenge?
The latter. The street's, like, as I said, like 32 to 34 feet wide. We observe very heavy parking demand. It would be feasible to put a bikeway in, designated, but the cost would be taking parking. And that's a long-term remedy that could be considered. Under safe routes, however, in our program that we're working for TAM, we're looking again for as immediate successes as we can find, and good partnering and consensus. So we're probably gonna be focusing more on something that's really focused on calming of the street rather than taking a lot of parking, to be real honest with you. Doesn't mean it can't be done in the future, but I'm just thinking of it from a safe routes to school standpoint and the mission we have. And again, we're not looking at taking parking necessarily along this street. It'd just be a huge impact.
If I may add, David, that we're not ruling out some creative hybrid solutions. I mean, it doesn't
Absolutely,
have to be either or. I think once we zero in on the counts and the speeds and the data, we might come up with a hybrid solution that maybe doesn't take out all the parking, but in critical areas, we need to make it a complete street. We need to make it a street that is livable and functional for all modes, for all hours. So, and I don't want to stir up the pot right away, but parking is not the highest need that is expressed on Fifth Avenue. So there might be some areas where we can surgically remove some parking to get back great benefits.
Yeah, I think you're stating that correct, that well, because we are looking at some of the intersections, some daylighting areas, and some constraints for some parking removal. So we're certainly proposing that. And I think you will see a section, at least a section view of what it would mean if we went all in and removed one side or meandered parking throughout the street, and what that would look like, because we want to be informed about that and see how far that can go.
Thank you.
So, Rafat, I have a question for you. Does the city have any kind of a traffic calming policy, like certain treatments that are approved or not approved, or just any kind of guidelines?
Well, for the traffic calming toolbox, we don't have a written policy. The policy that is used is that we begin by using soft measures, signing and striping, and then take it to a speed display sign. And as far as your question for do's and don'ts, we don't do undulations. The neck down is in our toolbox. Any other signing or striping, a chicane, maybe traffic circles, we're open to a number of measures that, if deemed applicable to a certain area, that we're open-minded about it. But the only thing that we don't do is the undulations. And our practice right now is a gradual practice. I mean, we really don't go in and pour everything on the street or the arterial right away. We would consider alternatives, and then maybe a gradual implementation of these alternatives.
And so undulations, you mean speed bumps, speed humps?
Yeah, the speed humps, the speed bumps, and that's good information to broadcast actually to all of the attendees. And undulations are they delay emergency vehicle response. And when you look at something like Fifth Avenue, there's an accumulative effect to people who live down the street. And they're not friendly for certain ADA drivers. Some of them may shift the position of someone who's handicapped and driving a vehicle, or could add severe pain to people who are in vehicles. So most agencies that I know of are staying away from undulations altogether.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Phil, you had something?
If we're done with questions, I have lots of comments, so I don't know if we're ready for that yet.
I think we'll see if there's any public comment first, right?
Public comment first, or
Is that right? Is it public comment first, then commission discussion? I'm blanking out.
It's really up to you, but it makes sense.
yeah, usually the members will discuss first and then.
All right, well, let's go with that then. Sorry, I'm just a little out
Yeah,
of sorts at the moment. So yeah, go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, so if I could comment first, first, David, thank you for this presentation. I mean, I think all three of these projects there's nothing more important than the safety of kids and the safety of kids going to school. So I think we can all agree upon that. And I think they're all worthy projects, and I really appreciate you working on them. As many people know, I'm particularly invested in the Sun Valley Fifth Avenue corridor, because that's where my kids go to school. And have been a little involved in this, but I think one thing that I want to do is point out a little bit of the importance and the context around this corridor. So in our bicycle and pedestrian master plan, all of Fifth Avenue. So we're just talking, this is just looking at a small section at the end towards the school, but all of Fifth Avenue is currently the bike route, and it is currently the safe route to school. And in our master plan, it is labeled as insufficient as a safe route to school. And when you go into the detailed projects in Group C, which is this area, we sort of have three high profile projects. Two of them we've done. The third one is this project. So this has been highlighted and documented as a very important safety issue. On top of that, unfortunately, there have been many collisions with pedestrians and bicyclists in that area. And when I say pedestrians and bicyclists in those areas, we're talking about kids in those areas that have gotten hit by cars. And so this is, this is, to me, that is as serious as it gets for this. I certainly understand all the constraints that were mentioned and the narrow roadway, but my thought is to really encourage everyone to understand how important this is, and to understand that we really need to be creative to address it, and things that I think we should look at are, in that section by Sun Valley, there's River Oaks Drive, I think is the section to the north, perhaps a one-way loop around the school and drop off. And if we have to remove parking, I really appreciate Rafat's comments that, parking is not necessarily the number one priority in making this a multi-use street. So that being said, I think a resolution is we're looking at the end, but really Fifth Avenue, the whole entire length of it, I would say truly needs a corridor study. I mean, we need to do something about the whole length of this and the whole area as you're getting to that school. And then for this, I would say, I certainly appreciate your wanting to do quick action, and I think we should do both quick action and long-term action, and realize that it's very important. So thank you. That is my comment for now.
Okay, thanks, Phil. Any other commission members have any comments at this time?
Mark, Kyle.
Go ahead, Mark.
I have a few. I want to just comment that that this in Sun Valley, I really see a need for addressing the issues that Philip raised, and the importance of prioritizing pedestrians and the safety of children in that corridor. Stating the obvious, it is the main corridor connecting to downtown, and the more pedestrian and bicycle friendly we can make it, the more we're going to encourage people to get out of their cars. In terms of Mark Day, I just want to mention that having bicycled there during the pickup time, there are a ton of cars just idling on the side of the road. And I'm wondering if there can be So I like the suggestion. I think it's great for that pathway, and maybe it'll help alleviate some of the parking, but a lot of the parking just is along the road, kind of ad hoc, with cars idling, waiting to swoop in and pick up their children. It's really kind of a shame that you can literally see 25 or 30 cars with one person sitting in it, and most of them are idling. But that's another issue for another time. But I'm just wondering if there is dedicated bike and pedestrian lane on that flips back and forth on that road. Can that be expanded at all? Monticello.
Oh, Monticello.
Mhm. So just, there's a lot of traffic and a lot of cars parked ad hoc. So something to note when you're looking at it. And on the Benicia Valley, I one day was bicycling and ended up somehow on that path and thought, oh, geez, here's the beginning of a path. Maybe I can get to the other side. Started biking down it. It looked like photo 3 in your presentation of Benicia. I thought, well, this looks like a well-worn path. But it became mildly treacherous, as I'm sure your walkthrough indicated. And then photo 4, it's almost it's impossible to be on a bicycle going through there. And it's not particularly safe. There's broken glass. You're kind of wondering what you're going to stumble upon. So I think this is a great project and should be prioritized, because a lot of folks do use it as an ad hoc pathway. So the sooner we get that one done, the better. That's all I have to say.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'm thinking about Fifth Street. I am, I guess I'm really curious to know what the patterns look like during the drop off. I just know that and pick up, because those could just be really crazy times, and some pretty bizarre stuff at various schools. So I would think, part of the consideration would have to be what goes on there, because I know you guys have probably been out there observing that. So that would certainly be an important factor. I at least the idea of strategically removing parking sounds like a good one. There may be some opportunity to shorten some crossings and things like that. So I think that certainly seems like some potential. And I guess I agree with Phil's comment about looking at the corridor as a whole, given that the sidewalk connections are pretty spotty, and so just to figure out what is, a more continuous path of travel where you're not periodically just bumping people out into the street, and are there places for mid-block crossings, or how do you kind of tie it all together? Yeah, I'm curious to see what some of the data looks like, what kinds of collisions have occurred there, what it looks like the main causes, and the speed data and all that. So I think it's a challenging corridor. It's an important one for that entire neighborhood. So I look forward to seeing what you guys can come up with.
Okay, thank you.
I think, Barry, if I could make a comment on top of your comment about Sun Valley Fifth, there's 2 types of pickup and drop-offs that occur. Some cars go down happy lane there. The others double park on Fifth, and then they go all the way to the end of Fifth and do a U-turn at the cemetery there, right? Because they can't do a U-turn at that first intersection. There's a no U-turn sign there, so they go all the way to the end. In the meantime, it's just nonstop traffic coming and going. So as a biker, you're kind of weaving in between the vehicles, the U-turns, and as pedestrians, it's the same issue. Because some sidewalks don't exist, and some sidewalks are so narrow with a utility pole right in the middle of it. People have to go out on the street, but they can't because it's a car parked there, so they have to go out beyond the car into the vehicle lane. Basically, it's a real shit show. We got a new member, Phil?
Got multiple members down here. I'm glad Barry's back in charge.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for that. Actually, I have a question about the one by Civic Center Drive. I was noticing that I guess it's on the um at the location where you're looking at where that potential path connection could be to Civic Center Drive. It looks like there's bike parking there.
Right here.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so is that something that would then be relocated, or I'm not that familiar with, I mean, I know the area generally, but I mean, was that intended to serve the rail station or
I believe it's intended to serve the rail station, but there's a lot of opportunities over here on the west side of Civic Center Drive. Not only for bike parking, but just for wayfinding and for pedestrian amenities. So the sky's kind of the limit.
Mhm.
A lot of ideas have been expressed for there.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I had anything else. I don't know if anyone else has any additional comments.
Yeah, I have a quick comment. I'd like to echo what Mark is saying about how important that Venetia Valley path is. I live in North San Rafael and I bike every single morning. I take basically the multi-use path that's just on the other side of the smart rails. And I see tons of kids with their parents, sometime alone, sometime with siblings, taking that really creepy dirt path on the other side of the rails. And the reason is, there is no other way to get to Venetia Valley School except going through North San Pedro Road, which is incredibly hostile to pedestrian and bicycle in the morning. I mean, It's just a nonstop line of cars. The sidewalks are super small there. I've driven through there a few times in the morning too. I had the misfortune of being there at the wrong moment. And let me tell you, I wouldn't like to do this walk every day. So it's why people take this dirt road that my wife has described to me one time as the creepy little path behind, those warehouses. So, we really got to build this path because this is really the missing link for those kids. Once they take this path, then they can go through the back street behind the Civic Center and through the residential neighborhood there in Venetia Valley. And so this is like such a quieter, safer path for people to take. And a lot of people use it. So, obviously my comment is just like, this is something that should have been built a long time ago and we should try to prioritize it. I think that'd be great.
Here, here.
Okay. Well, thanks very much. So what are the next steps, or what is the time frame for this?
That's a great question. We've been looking forward to hearing from you tonight so we can advance these a little further with the different jurisdictions. In some cases, obviously, the city of San Rafael, but also Caltrans Smart and others. We'll also look forward to hearing from the audience tonight. But our next steps are going to be to refine these a little bit further and then see where they could land with some short-term implementation as well as longer-term potential grant applications. So we're trying to queue them up for implementation, and we work for TAM. We're contractors, but it's going to be up to the city and others to grab them and apply for funds. So again, we're your partners on it, Bill.
Great. Sounds great. Do we have any members of the public interested in speaking on this?
Chair Bergman, we do have 5 hands raised right now. I'm going to go through the list and call them. First person, Matthew Hartzell.
Thank you. This is Matthew Hartzell, Director of Planning at WTB TAM. Thank you, Mr. Parisi, for these 3 presentations, all of them good projects. I want to speak about the Mark Day Vallecito path in particular. First of all, thank you for, it looks like there have been some updates to this project and the path now goes all the way to the east to Vallecito Elementary School, which is a great addition, I think. And I just want to support that project and then speak about how this project really fits into a nexus of a wider array of safe routes to school projects in the Terra Linda area. Terra Linda High School has recently completed or is in the process of completing a brand new two-way class 4 bikeway on Nova Albion Drive from Goldenheim to Esmeyer Drive. And that's a really great addition to the neighborhood that will also help for students, not just to get to Terra Linda High School, but also to Vallecito and to Mark Day School. And there's one segment left to be done, and we're really advocating at WTB TAM for this to be one of the next projects that the city works on, and that is the Nova Albion Drive between Esmeyer Drive and Las Colinas Avenue. And that goes right past Vallecito School. It would connect all of these safe routes projects together and really make Terra Linda into a well-connected system of safe pathways that all of our students from elementary school to middle school to high school can use. So really want to speak in favor of the broader vision and then in support of these projects as important pieces of that broader network. And my colleague Patrick Seidler in a moment will speak about the Venetia Valley School Civic Center Drive Pathway Project. Thank you.
Thank you. I will call Patrick.
First off, this is Patrick Seidler from WTB TAM. Philip, what are you trying to tell me? How much time do we have to speak? Is it what do you got? 2 minutes, really? Okay, let me help you guys out. My first comment is 2 minutes in a situation like this is really too little to have any kind of substantive communication. And particularly for folks like us, because we work really hard, and we work hard with people like you, who all are dedicated and so well informed. The committee, I'm extremely impressed of all your comments. I mean, this is an extremely engaged committee that that has an inordinate government around it. In the Department of Public Works in San Rafael, which has done incredible things and is set out a foundation for the future. It's going to be a model. You guys watch. And of course, you're working with David Parisi and his firm, which are the ones that, at the very beginning of Safe Routes to Schools. So we would just like to say that we'd like to submit some comments to you. We have a group of them, and we'd like to put them in writing, and we'd like, printing, digitaling, whatever, we'll put it to you. And some really good comments we hope you guys like, and it follows the intentions of the city, and we just give it a little bit of vision to it. So with that said, we'll submit that and open it to the public, let them look at it, and thank all of you for all the things you do. Wait, 2 minutes. I get 30 more seconds. Okay.
Oh, no.
I'm just joking. Bye.
Thank you.
David.
Thank you, Patrick.
All right.
I will call on the next person, Amy Lykover.
Thank you. Just wanted to.
Amy, you got cut off.
No, you guys start over.
Okay, so I said, again, this isn't the agenda item that that I'm attending to speak to, but as a retired teacher from San Rafael High, it's very interesting to see the process you go through for the Safe Routes to School. And I'm like most of you, well, at least a couple of you here, I'm much more familiar with the Sun Valley situation. The other two situations seem as if they're, simple engineering can make it happen. Sun Valley is much more of a sort of like a human problem. And so I just wanted to speak as an educator that there are a couple of things that could be done that aren't, concrete and striping. And maybe they're already done. I don't know how closely, and I'm speaking to the BIC group, I don't know how closely you work with the schools to find out what kind of education they're doing with their parents and with the kids, et cetera. But two things could really make a difference. Like, how much do they promote and actually encourage and reward carpooling? It's just unbelievable. In front of any of the schools, you see in front of the JCC right across from Venetian Valley, it's just unbelievable. It's such a hazard. That's the first. And the second, I'm sure all of you cyclists are familiar. I'm someone who goes to the Netherlands a lot. You're familiar with the way that they teach drivers. In order to get your driver's license, you need to learn how to get out of your car so that your car door doesn't hit the cyclist. And yeah, so just telling you, that's it. You can put that down. Thank you. Yeah, that those two things, teaching drivers how to get out of a car, because like you, I've almost been hit by car doors. People need to learn that. And actually this should be, and I'm speaking to the chair, Barry, this should be part of the eventual master plan, that this should be part of learning how to drive in this town, is knowing how to get out of your car, right? And there you go. And also learning how to carpool. There should be some reward for all parents who carpool and kids.
Thank you. I encourage you to keep those comments in mind when the bicycle pedestrian master plan update comes around in the not too distant future. We certainly want to be incorporating those kinds of things.
Sure.
Next personnel, Jeff Rubendahl.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate all the effort that everyone's put into this. I'm a parent and the Safe Routes Liaison at Sun Valley. So thank you, Amy. I didn't catch your last name, but the education and enforcement and what's going on in the school is something I'm very much in tune with as part of that program. I was part of the walk audit. Thank you, David and Rafat and others that were involved. I think we walked through that kind of last mile stretch that we spent a lot of time on. There are a lot of kids that bike, and the mode share, the amount of kids that are biking and people walking, is pretty high. Getting more people out of their cars is, I don't think, as realistic. So I think it's really leveraging or understanding that there are probably 10 times more people walking to school in that project area than biking. So not to lose sight of the crossings at Happy and Fifth, and on some of the side streets where parents are you're trying to drop off their kids. I have a first grader, I'll have a kindergartner next year, and one that'll be a kindergartner in 5 years. So I'll be at Sun Valley for the near term and the long term improvements that come out of this. So I'm really excited. Thank you. I want to encourage the city to consider, and this group to consider, alternate parallel bike routes, like Bike Boulevard on Fifth Avenue in this study area. Great. But that whole block from H on Fifth Avenue, from H to the school, is the speeds are, as someone who drives, walks, and bikes it, there are a lot of countermeasures will be needed, where you have a parallel route one block over that, with some paving, curb ramps, some striping and signage and branding, can be a great bike boulevard and connect to a bigger, longer bike boulevard with the Davidson. So just super excited. Thank you for everything that you guys are doing. Keep it coming. If there's anything that the school and the parents, the volunteers, can do to help, I'm hoping to be part of the bond measure planning that the city's doing as well. I can't see the numbers there, Phil. Just tell me if you just cut me off when you need to. But the loop operates as efficiently as it can for as small as it is. So all the things you discussed. Oh, I can't see it. I can't see it on my small screen. Sorry. Is that we are trying to fix that. However, there's just 150 cars in a cul-de-sac school, so we're trying to make the best of what we can. So it's not so much parking, it's the use of the curb to drop people off. We have volunteers opening doors. We are making the best we can. Anything we can do to make it better, please let me know. Happy to help. Thank you. I'm out.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next person, James Cooper.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So thank you all for your hard work on this and for investigating these issues. I'm a Sun Valley parent. I am one of the cargo bikers that David referenced earlier. I'm there probably 3 days a week, with the hybrid thing these days. And so the way that I take my daughter's school is actually, I don't feel comfortable going down Fifth. So I take the side roads, which I think is Center, and I forget the name of the sort of connector that I then go to, and then I kind of come out at Andy's and then take the road, take Fifth, because there's no other way to get to the school. And so a few comments that I wanted to make. look, in an ideal world, would there be a bike lane down Fifth? Yes, and I would love for that to be investigated. As Phil said, I think that, you know, what's really at stake here is child safety. Like took my kid to school one day, and like almost immediately after I passed by, a kid got hit by a car at Sun Valley. And that's just really, really scary. So I just encourage the consultants to be creative and offer all the potential solutions and prioritize safety, at least present the options that prioritize safety over parking spaces, because to me, that's the priority. I think it should be the priority for everyone. I would also encourage, like, I mean, I don't know how this all works or what the deal is, but I know Fifth is the bike route, but I think that there has to be, if you're going to make that the bike route, then make it safe for bikes. Alternatively, you know, consider the side streets, at least up until Davies Market, and then you can make that last part on the way to Sun Valley. That would desperately need some kind of connector. The sidewalk is so flooded with pedestrians in the morning that they spill onto the street, and there's nowhere to bike, and so you get pushed into like right next to cars, and it feels very unsafe. I mean, the last comment I would say is that my daughter is really desperate to bike to school on her own with me, but the current conditions, I don't feel comfortable like letting her do that, because I'm worried that she'll veer off and get hit by a car. So I think there desperately needs a solution on Fifth. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Next hand, Jean Severinghouse.
Yes, hi, thank you.
My apologies. Jean, sorry, I just unmuted you.
Okay, let's start over again. I wanted to ask about how the parent surveys that Safe Routes to School have done, which are pretty impressive, actually. They did one on Sun Valley, and the parents came up with a list of priorities of things they wanted attended to. And I'm wondering how those get into the BPAC, so the BPAC can apply their expertise and knowledge. So I see on the list from Safe Routes to School last week, we had, as the gentleman just said, you go up the back streets, the safer route, as they call it, uses the back streets such as Humboldt and Center, which desperately need repaving to be safe to ride a bike on. And then you get to California Street and you're forced out at Andy's Market onto Fifth. And so they've said, we really need to have a bike lane from California Street to Happy Lane. And then we need to have the intersection attended to. Like, you have to get safely across Happy Lane on Fifth. So how do all these things from Safe Routes to School work get fed into the BPAC? And are these already in your plan, David Parisi?
Jean, what's in the plan? These projects, let me just step back, were identified through walk audits, right, at each of these three schools. They eventually will make it into travel plans and be prioritized. And so the ones that are highest in the priority list will be those that we seek funding or implementation for. To your first question about the input we hear from parents, let alone the student travel surveys, that's all public information. We do make that available. You know, we're also going to be publishing an evaluation report for the entire program here in the next couple of months, which is super informative, not just for individual schools in San Rafael, but keep in mind, we work with 70 schools. So we have our hands full, but it tells us a lot about the demographics and travel patterns and improvements throughout the county. So that information will also be presented to every city and as well as the TAM board. But getting back to the specific input that we're hearing from Sun Valley parents, we can bring that back the next feedback meeting and kind of provide some highlights of how that influences some of the ideas we come up with. I don't know, Gene, if that helps answer your questions.
sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the defensive at all.
No,
I just-
I'm not,
I'm
no, don't
thinking
mean to
like,
sound defensive.
okay, we've been talking about Sun Valley for a couple of years, and it would be really nice to know how these conversations connect and come together. You've done a great
Yeah.
job on coming up with a project. I'm just asking, okay, did those parents get that bike lane from California to Happy Valley? I couldn't tell on your plans, and maybe it's there, or maybe it can't be done
Oh,
without
yeah.
surgically removing, parking like Rafat said.
Yeah, so Gene, we haven't developed the plans yet. We've looked at existing conditions and some of the constraints and some of the input. We're starting to lay out some ideas, including like daylighting or improving some of the intersections. What would it take to take, what do we get out of taking more parking? I think we get quite a bit, but nothing's been developed yet. So we're still in the fact-finding mission right now. And right after this meeting, we're going to be starting working closer with the city on developing some ideas, some concepts.
And if I may, Chair Bergman, with your permission, let me just jump in.
Please do.
Because there are several comments, kind of questions that left the whole Fifth Avenue as an open-ended. And I just want to clarify to all of the audience here that I think it's great extension of resources that TAM is giving us to do the Safe Route to School. And I mean, we can't be more fortunate to have the Parisi team on it because of their local experience and a very specific specialty in the field. I also know that the school has some funds to redo the parking lot. That came out in the audit, and I tell you, we have a perfect storm here. But I wonder if the resources extended by TAM are enough to get us home. And we continue to lean on that, but there is a specific request by the public to bring Fifth Avenue to BPAC, which is almost on the city, and Parisi was leading the pack for TAM. Let's continue to talk to TAM about making this a city project and still keep it on their radar for funding, but in terms of the development and the resources that are needed to get into what Jean just mentioned, the school surveys, and to zero in on the details.
Yeah,
we need to make it a more specific study, and which the city is willing to contribute, to continue to contribute, and towards that end. And I love the idea of bringing it back to the VPAC with some more discoveries, and let's continue the discussion and keep it on the radar for future funding as well.
and Rafat, if I could add something to that, like I said, we're working with 70 schools. We have a limited budget on the engineering side, but we're trying to stretch that as far as we possibly can. We do have a mandate to work with more disadvantaged and equity communities right now. So we're really focused on that quite a bit, including throughout San Rafael, Novato, and Bridge City. But we will certainly support and see how far we can go with this with limited funding, and come up with some ideas. A quarter plan is probably not in the cards for TAM to commit to, in their program, because that's beyond our scope of work, to be real honest. So just want to be real honest and transparent about that.
Thanks for that. Actually, David, I have one final question. And yeah, I think when I mentioned corridor plan, I was certainly not thinking that it'd be that you guys that do that. I think it is a bigger question. But I was wondering, is your scope limited purely to engineering, or does it include like potential operational changes with the drop off and pickup?
Yeah, so great question. We actually run the overall Safe Routes to School program for TAM. So not just the engineering, education, encouragement programs are through us, enforcement, street smarts, all that kind of stuff. We do look at operations. We can look at drop-off pickup if it affects or it creates a barrier for kids walking and biking to school. Our mandate is now to improve drop-off and pickup for motorists. So if there's a linkage to creating a barrier, for safe walking and biking, yeah, definitely we can take a look at that.
Yeah, it just seemed like, at least because I haven't witnessed it myself, but the way people were describing it, if you have that real peak and you just create 5 minutes of craziness, if you could spread that out to 15 minutes somehow, or put it
Yeah, exactly.
there might be a way of making it a little more manageable. So
And like I mentioned before, Dan Zeitz, the San Francisco City Schools facilities person, wants to get going and figure something out for drop-off pickup at Sun Valley.
And Chair Bergman, we do have one more hand raised.
Okay.
I'm going to call them right now. Dave Rhodes.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for the presentation. I echo everything you said about Fifth. I want to talk about the Venetia Valley proposal at the Smart Station. I'm wondering, is it possible to actually simplify this whole thing and just simply provide a bike ped connection across the tracks at Marydale, or at the end of towards the end of the platform, and therefore you have two ped bike crossings at that station? Probably would require a little bit of coordination with Smart, but it would be a lot simpler and it'd be a straight through situation from Marydale on the south side of the tracks and the north side of the tracks. And then you can just take advantage of the existing path on the north side of the tracks, rather than creating two parallel tracks under the freeway and having to do all this engineering and heavy construction, to cut back all that embankment. So I recommend thinking about that. Otherwise, looking forward to see how these projects progress. Thanks.
okay, thanks. Dave, I do know that one thing about adding new at-grade crossings is virtually impossible. So that's something that the PUC and I know the feds have like really pushed against, and like when they're trying to do the opposite and remove as many at-grade crossings as possible. So I think that's a pretty, I understand what you're saying, and I think there are certain things about that make a lot of sense, but just purely from a safety point of view, that's a big no-no in railroad these days. Okay, so I think we have the next agenda item, the Grand Avenue cycle track. So we're gonna start with the presentation, I guess, from staff, Rafat or Nat.
I'll present Joanna Walk, who is the project senior engineer in the capital investment program, and she's been leading the Grand Avenue cycle track, 2nd to 4th Street. And without further ado, Joanna. She has a presentation.
Real quick before we start, we have a few more things on the agenda. Are we going to try to get through them all, or are we going to try to focus on things? What do you think is going to be best?
I think we're going to get through all of the items on the agenda. We extended the time for the meeting until 8:30. I hope everybody's okay with that.
Oh, great. Okay. I didn't know we had more time. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Rafat. I will share my screen now. Well, good evening, and thank you everyone for having me tonight to talk about the Grand Avenue Cycle Track project. I believe the last time we presented this to the committee here was back in August of 2021. So I'm really looking forward to providing you an update on our project, including our latest design and anticipated timeline moving forward. I'd like to start off with our project overview. On the screen here, we have an aerial view of the existing Grand Avenue between 2nd and 4th Street. This project proposes to install a new cycle track on the east side of Grand Avenue, as shown in green here. This project is one of our priority projects in the Bike and Ped Master Plan and serves as an extension to the San Francisco Bay Trail in connection to San Rafael Downtown, the Transit Center, and Canal neighborhood. With this project, we're proposing to remove a few on-street parking spaces. As you can see here, there will be about 6 to 7 parking spaces removed on the east side of Grand Avenue and about 3 on the west side of Grand Avenue. This project will also remove the existing median and include some lane changes to accommodate a new two-way protected bikeway and sidewalk on the east side of Grand Avenue. After some community outreach back in early 2022 and a few design iterations, the design team landed on this current design you see before you here. Starting from the south limits of our project at 2nd and Grand Avenue, the cycle track will serve as a connection to the Grand Avenue Bike and Ped Bridge, which was completed about 2019. Additionally, this intersection was also recently upgraded, so there will be minimal modifications at this location. However, this crosswalk will be upgraded to a mixed ped and bike crosswalk. And we'll also have some traffic signal modification to help control the right turn movement from Grand Avenue onto 2nd Street in the eastbound direction. This will provide for a safer pedestrian and bike crossing experience at this crosswalk. The crosswalk will start on the north side of 2nd Street, as you can see here. And as we move north, we'll be crossing an existing driveway to the gas station at this corner. This driveway access will remain. However, it will be modified into a one-way entry only. As we move to the 3rd and Grand Avenue intersection, you notice that the northbound approach lanes will be modified to provide a dedicated through lane and 2 protected left turn pockets onto westbound on 3rd Street. At this intersection, the Grand Avenue Cycle Track project will be overlapped with the 3rd Street improvements. As such, we'll be coordinating the traffic signal and curb ramp and curb return modification at the spot. Continuing northbound to 4th and Grand Avenue, we pass by several existing driveways, which will also be maintained to provide access to the existing properties on the east side of Grand Avenue. The two-way protected cycle track will end right on the south side of this intersection, as you can see here, and there will be new markings to help transition from the cycle track into the existing facilities on 4th Street and on Grand Avenue. As part of this project, we'll also be including wayfinding signs or additional signage throughout Grand Avenue from 2nd to 4th Street to help bicyclists and pedestrians navigate through these new facilities. As part of the design, our team really tried to consider and balance the needs for all modes to provide a complete street. And we were able to continue forward with this project since we were able to confirm grant funding for the construction of this project last year in 2022. And for our next steps, we're really hoping to get some good feedback from the committee and the public tonight, as well as continue with our public outreach in the next couple months, with the intent of having completed final project documents by late spring of 2023 and starting construction this summer, with keeping in mind that we'll have to coordinate with other active projects such as 3rd Street as we enter construction. If you would like any project updates, please feel free to check out our website at this link or by using this QR code. The recommended action tonight is to receive public feedback and accept this informational report. At this time, I'd like to conclude my presentation and thank everyone for their time tonight and turn back to the chair for our next steps.
Great, thank you for the presentation. This is a really exciting project, so it's great to see things down on see the plans come out, and I'm really curious to hear what. Does anyone have any questions? First of all, anyone on the commission? Mark?
Yeah, thanks, Barry. Yeah, Joanna, very nice presentation. Thank you. Good project. Years ago, I was in a little bike accident there on Second and Grant, so I appreciate the need for this project. Question for you, you said there was some public outreach done already. Was that mainly with the businesses in the area there that might be impacted?
Yeah, so I wasn't here exactly when that was done, but I did see that Lauren had previously reached out to some of the businesses and just the residents within a certain radius of this project site.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, well, I guess I had a couple of questions just looking at the design. One, I was looking at the northeast corner.
Barry, we lost you.
Oh. Still, can you hear me now?
I can hear you,
Yeah.
Barry.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can hear it, Barry.
Not
Yeah.
sure what happened. I was looking at the northeast corner of Grand, and now is the idea that it would be, are these pavement markings with some kind of bollard, like similar to what's on Francisco, or what's the concept?
Yeah, we're still developing the design as we're really only at 30%, but we are proposing some bollards or like some kind of buffer around the curb returns on the east side of the intersection at this location. And these will just be areas, they'll either be like staging for like bicyclists or directional markings to let them know like what direction they can head into.
Okay, so so those curb extensions would not be concrete. There would be some kind of other treatment.
Sorry, can you repeat that question again?
You were just talking about the curb extensions. I was actually thinking about the buffer between the cycle track and but I'm curious to hear what you said about that.
Oh, I see. It's mostly going to be striping and maybe some type of vertical protection, and then along here, the buffer part for the cycle track. It'll be something similar. It'll be striping along with some vertical protection.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking at the street view just to see the existing conditions while we were talking, and I was thinking like, oh, if coming up, heading north on Grand and crossing Third, and you were saying that the driveways at the Chevron station would remain open as they currently are.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just noticing that, you know, when looking at street view, there's a semi sitting there about to pull out onto Grand, and I'm thinking, you know, they're gonna drive like right over that whatever kind of barrier that is, whether it's delineators or, you know, I don't know if it I would just, it's something I guess just need to, and also just pulling in, there's that very tiny little island next to the crosswalk, and I'm just imagining people clipping that. So whether it's a mountable curb or, you know, I don't know what the optimal solution is, but I can imagine there being some conflicts there with that design. I also had a question about the at Grand and Fourth. First of all, have you given any thought to how to transition people heading south on Grand into the cycle track?
Yeah, so again, this is still highly conceptual, but if a bicyclist is coming down Grand Avenue in the southbound direction, the thought is that they will cross the crosswalk on 4th Street, and then they can stage in this kind of left turn looking marking area. And when the light turns green for pedestrians, they would also continue across and then enter into the cycle track.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about the two-stage turn markings. I'm just wondering whether people are going to intuitively understand what to do with those. And you know, maybe there's some outreach that needs to be done around that, but I would just I'm just concerned that somebody might see that and go through and get you know, follow the markings and not really pay attention to the flow of traffic and get nailed by the through traffic. But you know, that's something to think about down the line. The other question I had was at Second Street. Maybe you looked at this and I don't know if it's feasible or not, but I was wondering if there's anything that can be done to square off that corner a little bit for northbound as they're approaching Second Street.
Sorry, so at sorry, which one?
North for northbound on Grand as they're approaching Second Street. So because that right turn there is people could take that at a pretty high speed and also just lengthens the crossing. Is there anything that can be done to square it off, or does the turning radius not work?
Right, and Rafat, please.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I'll jump in. Actually, I've been sitting at the edge of my chair wanting to jump in for the previous comment as well. But I'm trying to refrain from. Basically, let me start by saying that we had a lot of discussions. I mean, I'm talking about maybe 6 to 8 hours of discussion about where does this facility begin and where does it end, because it makes all the difference in the world. And both of your questions, Chair Bergman, that related to that fact. The actual cycle track starts on the north side of Second Street and it ends on the south side of 4th Street. Just to make it clear, we will have we begin at Second, past Second, and we end before 4th. And the reason for that is that the level of investment and the budget that is budgeted for this, it had to stop somewhere. The scope creep has to stop somewhere. To your question about the southbound at 4th Street, yes, it's not the ideal situation. We will have some guidance. We talked about some guide signs and leading pedestrian and leading bicyclists going southbound not to cross the northbound traffic and to get into this facility. For 2nd Street, there's going to be a special phasing. The special, we intentionally did not change the layout on the south end corner because it's brand new. We just finished it, number one. And because it would be grossly expensive to redo, knowing that the right turn traffic is very high as well. The ideal thing is to square it off. The decision was made not to because of funding. However, we are bringing in a special phasing that works in San Francisco, that during the walk, there'll be a flashing right arrow to alert drivers to the crosswalk. And as you notice that the crosswalk does not include the green, hoping that we don't encourage bicyclists to ride on in that crosswalk because it doesn't have a dedicated bicycle signal. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, I mean, it was, as far as the transitions, I wasn't trying to suggest to extend the scope of the project. It was more about whether it be some kind of signage or then maybe just something to direct people so that they understand where they're supposed to go. And I don't think that would be a huge, I've seen things like that where, maybe there's something at the push button or wherever where you tell people where they need to go in order to continue forward. So,
Yes.
but yeah, I understand the need to limit the project and for where it's defined, I think it's a great project. It'll make a huge difference in that area. Does anyone else have any, Phil?
Yeah, I have my comments if we're done with questions. I first want to say, Joanna, thank you. That was a very clear presentation and really, I think, laid out the vision well. And just wanted to chime in and say that I like this. I mean, I appreciate you incorporated all of the feedback we gave you the last time that we saw this, because we saw this item, I don't know, roughly a year ago. And I think this is a great benefit. We have a beautiful bridge facility just to the south of here with the Grand Avenue Bridge over the canal. You know, and I understand Rafat's comments that it's not totally, you know, tied in with that intersection, but it makes that bridge so much more usable going first. So I think this is a huge step. And I'm just very pleased. So thank you for all this great work.
Thank you.
Any other members of the committee want to chime in?
Barry?
Yes.
Or Kyle? Great presentation, and I just want to say, let's build this. Let's go forward and make it happen. It's a great addition to the city.
Other Mark Solomon, did you have something that you were going to say? Or
No, I already asked my question.
oh,
Thanks.
okay. Hey, I think looks like everyone has had their say at this point. So, if we have any members of the public who have any questions or comments or things to add.
Chair Bergman, we do have 2 hands raised right now. I would like to call the first one, Amy Lykover.
Thanks. This was the agenda item that I attended the meeting for. So anyway, I studied the plan beforehand, and I was hoping that there would be an opportunity. This is such a concrete maze area of greening it up a little bit with this new construction. And I think it's unlikely, but I thought I'd put a pitch that whenever you do something new, there's always an opportunity to introduce plants. The other thing is, so it seems to me, I have a couple of questions. It seems to me that this is a structure that was that's being proposed for adults, because there is no, to my knowledge, there's no turnoff on 2nd Street to be able to access San Rafael High. And if you're trying to, you know, change people's lifestyles, et cetera, that is sorely lacking. Kids, and we're talking equity here, right? Kids who are coming from, you know, where I live, Bristol Park, et cetera, they can take Mission. It's a little bit safer. But kids are coming from the canal have bikes too. And yeah, they're not going to be able to get to school unless they go all the way up to Mission. And that's more dangerous, as you know, at that area. So I thought I'd point that out. From an equity standpoint, this does not necessarily help the kids get to the high school. Then the third thing would be changing the culture again. With those open driveways going into service stations, I wouldn't be worried about the semi truck hitting the ballards. I'd be worried about the semi truck hitting the bicyclists. And so there has to be, talk about signage, there has to be something, I don't know, flashing yellow lights or something to alert people to the cyclist thing. Another cultural shift. I was leaving the Toyota dealership the other day, and the more that you improve bicycle paths, the faster the cyclists ride. That's been my experience. And so there I was waiting to get onto that very difficult San Francisco Drive. Anyway, it's so hard in a car. So I looked both ways, and a cyclist came out of nowhere and just plowed right in front of me. And that's what I fear is going to happen right in front of the service stations, et cetera. So I think that someone has to, consider that anyway as you go forward, because especially any plan with pedestrians and cyclists, you have to pay attention to, the human decision-making that is going to be there. And then my last question is, are you going to be removing the labyrinth, things on the bridge so that you don't have to get off your bike to go through it? You know what I'm talking about, right? What are those called? There's like, you have to go through sort of a labyrinth so that bikes aren't used on the bridge currently. I can't hear anyone. You're muted. I didn't hear anything that was
I'm
said.
sorry, you're talking about the bridge on Grand?
Yeah, the Grand Avenue Bridge has these like gates that you can't ride your bike through, so you have to get off your bike. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I guess that's a question for staff.
I don't know the answer to that, Amy. I'll get back to you.
But you know what I mean, right, Rafat? There's
Yes, I
like,
do.
like two metal gates at the entrance to the bridge at either ends. You have to
Yes.
walk your bike across the bridge.
I really don't understand, to be honest, why they're there, but I will investigate and get back to you.
Thank you.
Could you get back to the whole committee? That'd be interesting for all of us.
Sure, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Amy.
We
Matt,
do
we
have one more raised hand. Gene Severinghouse.
I just wanted to say bravo, Joanna, great presentation, and Rafat and the city. This is a really necessary and I think it's a game changer, because as a cyclist going from 4th Street down to the Canal Bridge, it's really been awful. And this is like a huge improvement. So, good comments from everybody. I'm looking forward to hearing the answers, but this is great. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks everyone for the good comments. I think we're all looking forward to seeing this move forward. So thanks so much to staff for all your work on this and for all the great work you've done so far. Let's see. So next,
Joanna, can you stop sharing? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
so now we're going on to B Street two-way conversion.
Correct. Let me pull up.
Nat, Pan, our traffic engineer, will do the presentation. We just had a presentation Monday night with the city council. And Nat, it's your show.
Thank you. Let me pull up the slides real quick. As right now it's 7:55. The meeting does end at 8:30. So I will go through this fairly quickly, but with detail. Thank you everyone for attending tonight. We'll be presenting on B Street conversion project. So in fiscal year 2020, C and D Street were converted from a one-way street to two-way. So now we're looking forward to implementing a conversion for B Street from one-way to two-way this summer of 2023. Again, for this project, we will basically be going through the same procedures that we did for C and D Street. What we will end up be doing is breaking out into 3 phases. So the first phase is to do prep work with the traffic signals, changing the ped heads, signals, indicators. Then the second phase would be working on pavement restriping, changing the meters out, further improvements on the roadway, and that would be south of 4th Street. And then the final step and phase of this project would be to update the pavement striping and pavement markings as well for north of 4th Street. So far today, we've done quite a few of outreach, and we will continue to do so as we work through design. To date, what we've done so far was mailed notifications out to businesses within 300 feet of the project. It also went out to residents as well. We had a virtual meeting, Federation of San Rafael Neighborhoods, where this was discussed on January 12th. We had a B Street Community Outreach virtual meeting, which was on January 18th. We had Monday, a city council meeting presentation where we did receive a lot of comments from council members and also the public. Tonight, we have a Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee bringing this to BPAC. We would like some feedback. And again, it doesn't have to be comments just solely for tonight. If there are any further comments that you do want to share as well after this meeting, please feel free to reach out to me. And then we also have another meeting and outreach next week, which is at the San Rafael Chamber of Commerce, and that's on February 14th, which is on Valentine's Day. So the benefits of a two-way conversion, basically, here are some of our goals that we're trying to work towards. Improving emergency response time. By turning this roadway into a two-way, we're allowing PD and fire department to basically access this corridor to get to emergencies. The second is vehicular mobility. Again, with the downtown area, we are not introducing new traffic volumes. What we're basically doing and trying to do is balance out the traffic. With C and D Street already converted into a two-way, you have traffic going in both directions. Based on counts that we do have, traffic on those roadways have increased from 700 to 1,000 vehicles per day. So we're basically balancing vehicles out. And by us doing that with B Street, we will allow vehicles to travel through that corridor. Turning a one-way into two-way street does lower travel speed. So it does have a calming effect. We will be updating the roadway pavement with new striping as well for visibility. One big benefit that will occur from this improvement as well is storefront visibility. Now that we have more vehicles traveling through this corridor, people will most likely see these businesses, stop on by, and then do some shopping. The panel that here's our conceptual plan view. The top panel that you see is basically the striping improvements that we will be including. The panels that you see down below are basically zoomed in figures. What we do have here out there right now, and we don't plan on changing, is the parking. So parking will remain the same. Areas that are currently red curb will be touched up as well. Street eateries that are currently out there will not be impacted by these improvements. They will get more visibility, which is great. We will be adding a turn pocket near 2nd and B Street. New pavement striping is going to be out there. All the parking meters will be replaced as well. So here's a intersection improvement that we will be doing, which is at 2nd Street and B Street. We will be installing a left turn pocket onto 2nd Street. We will be furnishing and installing traffic and pedestrian signal heads at intersections. And this is the image to your right is an example of new pole replacements, traffic signal parts that would be included. A lot of this is going to help basically move pedestrians through this corridor. Here is a proposed cross-section view. You're going to have traffic be flowing in both directions between north and south, and then you're going to have parking on both sides. Our current timeline for right now for this project is to continue public outreach through February. We do have our BPAC meeting today, Chamber of Commerce meeting next week. And then our goal is to finalize design sometime around April 2023, and then basically implement the this project with the 3rd Street rehabilitation project, which is ongoing. So basically all the pavement striping will be done in conjunction with this project. I would like to let you know that we do have this online as well, and we'll be updating information up there. My contact information is shown below. And I would like to open this for questions for everyone. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that presentation. Phil, I saw your hand shoot right up.
I will start with my question. I will then have many comments that will come afterwards. My question is that on B Street, between 3rd and 4th, are 2 city-owned parking garages. There's the A Street garage, which has 390 parking stalls, and also the C Street garage, which has 388 parking stalls. So both of those are on the street. Currently, when you're exiting those parking stalls, you can only turn one direction. So from the A Street garage, you can only go right, and the C Street garage, you can only go left. I think I just said that backwards, but I think it's currently a one-way street. So I'm curious how the plan is going to deal with the exit to those garages, as well as the same is true on B and 2nd is that brand new nice like luxury residential apartment places, which also has a gated parking garage. So through that area, there are 3 parking garages, and how are the cars going to interact with the roadway as they leave those?
Nat, do you want me to jump in and answer?
Yes,
Okay.
that'd be great.
I think the simple answer is like they get in and out of any other driveway on a two-way street. It's not, you know, the numbers that you mentioned are definitely, you know, good observation, but the 300 cars don't come in at the same time and leave at the same time. So it's going to be sporadic demand, and people will do what is comfortable for them, whether to make a right or a left, and they will choose the whatever is comfortable for them to access and egress the garages. I don't, you know, for the second street, there's going to be a concentration of traffic volume right now because B Street is southbound only. There's a very heavy left turn movement at Second Street, and that might impact the access to the apartment, depending on how long the queue is. What was mentioned at the council meeting, and which is good news for everyone, is that we do have cameras on every intersection except B and Third. So B and Third, we don't have a camera, but and it's coming soon with the B Street rehabilitation project. But we're going to be watching all of this activity as the conversion happens, and we will be dealing with any, and that's actually what Nat told the council in April, is that, you know, we might have to do some minor parking restrictions in order to facilitate some of these movements. But as far as we can see right now, we're fine.
Nat had mentioned that there's not much parking being removed, but to me, to make that turn safer, I would want some line of sight, you know,
Exactly.
in some amount of space in between. So you're thinking you would likely have the, you know, on either side have, you know, whatever, 20 feet or something to see over vehicles so they can make those movements.
And for that line of sight, especially in an urban center like the downtown San Rafael, there is no set formula. It's going to have to be you know, we got to gauge the comfort, convenience, and the demand for parking. It's always a balancing game.
Okay. And any other questions from members of the commission?
Barry, Mark, Kyle.
Oh, sorry.
Just piggybacking on what Philip asked and extrapolating it a little bit. How many parking spaces actually exist on the street? Philip, I was impressed by your knowledge of the number of parking spaces per parking structure. I'm wondering how many parking spaces exist on the street and what that number is compared to the parking structures. I have to imagine it's small, number one. And number two, my real point and the question that I have is it even necessary to have parking on the street given the big parking garages? And would it might not be a better use to have dedicated bicycle lanes so bicyclists and pedestrians could traverse the city, at least on B Street, in a north-south direction? So I'm wondering if my question is, has that been considered? And then I'll put it into an advocacy comment in the comment period of time.
I can respond to that as well, Nat, if you allow me to. I think you know, Commissioner Mooney made that suggestion in one way or another, and this whole thing has been thrown into, you know, why do we need street parking? the love affair with street parking and the merchants is something that's not logical. But it's, you know, a lot of people believe that curb parking is their livelihood. And you know, many studies have proven otherwise, but it is not logical. The issue is whether this discussion belongs to this project of conversion, or does it belong to another project that was presented by Philip Mooney to the City Council, as looking at the precise plan and looking at this B Street as a pedestrian corridor, and what does that mean to the city? You know, there are a number of items that we can add right now without going to the full-blown project of curb extensions and parking removal, and even consider a dedicated bicycle facility, because as Council Member Rachel mentioned, we really don't have good north-south penetration into the downtown area. So all of that discussion, in my mind at least, belongs to another effort, another project, another funding source. We are happy to make the switch and coordinate with 3rd Street Rehabilitation Project and do the necessary right now. And we will continue the discussion of B Street and other north-south streets as a bicycle and pedestrian corridors in the revision of the bicycle pedestrian master plan. And that's something that we really need to get into in another project. But the suggestion is, in my mind, is 100% valid. Why do we need to have parking?
Right. Mr. Chairman, if I may, with all due respect, Rafat, I hear your points, but I would suggest that this might actually be a good vehicle for that transition. And given the fact that C and D have already been locked in and are not now available for north-south on a bicycle, for dedicated bicycle paths, then we have an opportunity here. Otherwise, we're going back and throwing more money at projects where it'll be more expensive down the road. I know you know the drill on that, but it'll be that much more expensive 5 to 6 years from now. And we say, yeah, let's throw in some bicycle paths. And now that we're doing it. So those are my comments, but, and I'll thank you for my time.
I'm hoping that I could jump in with some comments, because that discussion seemed like a segue for what I'm trying to say. You know, I will say, just to start off, for some perspective, you know, I think this project was envisioned to be a relatively simple project of going to a one-way street to a two-way street, like we successfully did on C Street and like we did on D Street. I then think I complicated the project, and I'm going to argue why I think it's important that I complicated that project. So I think no one really expected this to be a big deal, but the background is I spoke at City Council about this, and I wrote a letter into City Council on Monday, and I would encourage people, for background, you know, maybe could read that. But I do want to be clear that, you know, I guess I'll start with a summary. So in summary, I am in support of converting B Street from a two-way street, from a one-way street to a two-way street. Absolutely. But I think this spot is so important to pedestrians in downtown that it really needs to include more pedestrian improvements. And I do think those enhancements should at least begin as part of this project. So if I can, I just want to get an outline of my thought process, and then I could dive into more detail. So like sort of, I'll tell you what I'm then going to tell you in detail. So again, I want this two-way conversion. You know, it's been planned. One-way streets encourage speeding. I really appreciate the improvements at the intersection at 2nd Street. All that is good. The thing that I note and I'm going to point out is that is the pedestrian priority route in the precise plan. And I think that's very important, and I'll tell you why. I then want to discuss the unique conditions and businesses that make this area so busy and so dangerous for pedestrians. I want to show, I had a leading question to show that there is an overabundance of parking. I'll talk about that. Then I could sort of share my vision for the area, and finally discuss why I think right now is the correct time to add those improvements, and hopefully get some committee feedback for ways we could easily do that as part of this project, in addition to other projects. So, okay, I think there's no blowback, so I don't need to spend much time on the idea of making it a two-way street. And two-way streets are safer and better, and I don't really think anyone's going to disagree with that. So maybe I don't need to speak about it all that much. But what is really important is that in our most recent downtown precise plan, B Street is the pedestrian priority route. It's like that is the street that we're given for north-south access to go through there. And so as Mark Kyle was alluding to there, I think anytime we're going to do work on a street that is in our plan, we need to further the goals of our plan. And so this street is doing a big change, a huge change the conditions, and yet we're not following the advice of our own plan. That was our plan that came out last year in the downtown precise plan. And so I think it's really important generally overall is that anytime we make any improvement that we're following a plan. That's the reason that we make these plans, is to give us some guidance for a project like this. Now, I think this area is particularly important and particularly unique given some of the businesses that are along that area. So I would say, to me, most importantly, is St. Vincent de Paul's dining hall, which is on that block. And so you see nearly 100 people in line on the sidewalk twice a day, in the morning and at lunch, as they're waiting for the meals, and their bikes are leaning all over the place because there was no bike parking. St. Vincent's has installed some of their own bike parking there. They're crowded under the awning, and this is a project that can really help to improve the life and the experience of some of our most vulnerable residents here in San Rafael. Also along this corridor is some of the most fun and active social areas. There's bars, there's parklets, it's Libation Tap Room, Cali Gold, Flatiron, and State Room are basically all connected along this. There's a couple of restaurants, including new ones that are opened. There are parklets around there. There's already a surprisingly amount of street parking that's not missing. That there's a surprising stretch of road that has street parking that is missing because of fire hydrants and things like that anyway. So there's actually not all that much street parking to begin with there. And the new residential development, where this is also the street, it is out of the scope of the project, but our community center is also on B Street, 2 blocks away from the end of this project. So once you go to 2nd, you would then see Safeway and then the community center. And so, if you take away any message from this, is I would say it's a very, very busy area for pedestrians, and it is specifically busy 2 times a day for some of our most vulnerable homeless population that are getting the foods right there. Okay, so to keep going, parking, because I think what all this is going to come down to, as Rafat alluded to, is parking. Well, parking and money, but those are the 2 things. I think my questions were leading that there is a lot of parking around here. So there are the 2 garages on either side of B Street between 3rd and 4th with 388 and 390 parking stalls. Luckily, the city did a parking and wayfinding study in 2017 for the new members. I definitely suggest you look at that sometime too, but I can summarize that to say that we're never near full parking capacity in those garages. And they do a good job of projecting out into the future and talk about how it is on the weekends and the weekdays. But, you know, to summarize the parking story, there is plenty of parking. And so I would say if there was any place that it would be reasonable to sacrifice parking for the good of making it a multi-use street for other users, I would choose this street. So the vision that I would have is we would sacrifice a little of this abundant street parking to make it really safe and inviting for pedestrians. And so, you know, my vision would be to have my long-term vision, which would be an expensive vision, which I get, would be to have, you know, seating areas and lighting and much larger sidewalks. And, you know, I'm envisioning like on 4th Street by State Room, the sidewalk comes out and takes a few parking stalls away, also at the Falafel Hut. So, you know, something like that is my vision. And you could add beautiful trees and you could just make it a really safe and welcoming environment for everyone in that area. And again, like at our pedestrian priority route. And so I think the final thing, you know, so I said this at City Council and I think the feedback was quite positive from everybody. I think the feedback was positive from council members to other people who spoke and heard to the staff here. And I think, you know, the thing that I heard was, you know, nothing that we're doing today precludes future action towards making this better. And I hear that and I understand that, you know, this was planned to be a very simple project. But I think anytime we have a plan and anytime we're doing any work towards that plan on those streets, there need to be some improvements. And so what I would like to see is creative solutions that could start us along this project as part of that. So what that entails is, as I don't have the ideas, I was pulling up like some Google images, you know, and I saw some Google images of, there were like some concrete flower planters that would block off the road and thereby it had some additional space for pedestrians, and the planters blocked it so you could have some parking stalls for bikes within the road there. And that's sort of what I'm envisioning as you're going in the center of these blocks. And that's what I really would emphasize, I think would be better for everybody. And I think the community would really likes this vision. And so to me, the question is like, is when? And we all know once things are set in place, people get used to it, and change is hard. And this is a moment of change because the road is completely and totally changing. And so I think you might as well start those changes now. I'll quit talking because that took a long time. We could hear other voices.
I'm really intrigued by a lot of what you're saying, Phil. I think I guess my perspective is it's kind of, I think there really needs just to be a whole rethinking of parking the entire downtown. And so I think just I'm a little wary of trying to make a plan for one corridor without having that larger context and just the total quantity of street parking and the pricing of the street parking and how all of that works. I guess so I don't know what it seems like the scope of this project was pretty much about changing the direction of the lanes and striping and signing and making whatever signal adjustments and those kinds of things. So like you said, it's a pretty low budget project. And so I guess I had some questions about the design too. I mean, just the fact that the cross section that you showed had 14-foot travel lanes, which I'm just not sure why that would be needed in downtown in any context. And so, but that also kind of relates back to what you just said, Phil, about having, well, there's more space potentially available for something else. And you know, maybe it is possible to do something at a low cost, you know, using a quick build type median island as a pedestrian refuge island, or to do some kind of curb extensions to reduce some of those crossing distances. I mean, the middle of the block still could use some work, and maybe that's a bigger project further down the road and part of a larger thing. But it does seem like there's probably certain things that could be added that might not blow the budget out or fundamentally change what is going on for this smaller effort. So I don't know. I'm curious to hear what, I don't know if other commissioners or staff has any thoughts about how this might be tweaked.
I'll be happy to speak to that. I mean, do you anticipate any other comments alongside the list of potential improvements or towards the scope of the project itself? If there are, maybe I'll hear them before I give you back my comments, and that's really up to you, Chair Bergman.
Yeah, I mean, that my comment was really, I was noticing the lane widths, and that would just seem like a real opportunity to do something. So I don't know if any other commissioners have anything they want to add in prior to Rafat speaking.
I 100% agree with Phil, so I'm not going to take much time to repeat what he said. I think there's so much parking there. Of course, I support the change to the two-way traffic. I think that's great. But as much as I understand the scope of this project was meant to be small, we are the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and I think as far as what this does for pedestrian, I think not very much, honestly, when I look at the new design. Obviously, reducing the speed is a great thing, but we need larger sidewalk on that street. We need more greenery. It is really a fun part of town. I would like to insist on that. And so many restaurant and bars there. It could be one of the really vibrant pedestrian area of our city. And right now, honestly, it kind of sucked to walk there as a pedestrian a little bit. So I would love to see the scope of this extended. I understand that might not be possible, but I don't know when that will be done if otherwise. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Mark?
Thanks. I have to say, I'm blown away by Philip, by your vision. I think, man, running for mayor someday would be a good job for you. That was impressive. I mean, you sold me on it, I have to say. I would like to hear Rafat and others, the staff speak a little bit more, because your vision is grand, and it might be too grand, perhaps, for what we're trying to do here, because I'm sure the staff has a limited budget, and we're just trying to make incremental changes where we can with the money and all that. But very impressive. I'm just not sure it's going to fit into the overall city budget here, but good.
I mean, if I can respond, yeah, I totally agree. And frankly, I think I think people likely agree with the idea and vision. My point is, I think something towards making it more pedestrian friendly has to happen now. As this project currently, there's one better, the second intersection is very nice, and I appreciate that. But basically, when I see it, they've changed paint. It is different for cars, and literally nothing else has changed for pedestrians. So we're doing a project with zero enhancement for pedestrians. And so I think we need to start with something. And I totally understand constraints of budget. And I just think there could be additional creative thinking. And frankly, I know we're running low on time, but I'm really hoping to hear from members of the public, because I think they could help give us some creative thinking that I have not thought of to make it better.
I just want to, for the record, I'm loving to hear what I'm hearing, and I consider myself very fortunate to work with all of you. All of the vision and the expertise from the committee members and the public. I mean, this is exactly what the community needs in order to get out of the business as usual that was completely changed. I think for the pedestrian and bicycle environment in San Rafael, I would say it completely changed with the recent projects that we've done and with the projects that we're doing right now. I just want to, express my gratitude for being here and to hear the collective vision. And I honestly think that there is room to compromise here, and thank you for bringing that vision. There are a list of improvements that we can do. We can do leading pedestrian intervals. We can adjust the curbside management, maybe more passenger loading zones, more maybe open it up instead of just a row of parking. We are adding pedestrian heads, and I disagree with the statement that we're not doing anything to pedestrians. Once you see the design of 3rd and B, you're gonna be changing that statement very quickly, because we're spending $500,000 on that intersection to make it pedestrian friendly. And we pushed very hard to make the street level with the sidewalk. That's a huge deal for making pedestrian king, promoting the pedestrian to another level of comfort. I think there is room for easy fixes. We're adding pedestrian push buttons. We're adding pedestrian heads on all of the intersections that we're touching. That's a big deal. There's room to add bicycle parking. I think, it just kind of makes it putting more street furniture on the sidewalk. It makes it more friendly by default. And I totally agree with the comments made about the greenery and potential planters. There's room for share roads with 14-foot parking, where there's room for share roads. Maybe you can consider that as well. Low-cost striping. I worry about the island suggestion, because the island might be prohibitive in making certain turns in and out of driveways. So anything short of turning this project into a controversial discussion of parking removal or widening sidewalk right now would be a deal breaker. I hope that I'm very clear on this, that parking we can tweak, but let's not take that battle yet to anything, within the time frame of this project. We cannot tackle the controversy of parking or no parking on the street. And I personally think that not having any parking on the street without a replacement facility like a bicycle track or something, or a major narrowing of the street, is a waste and inviting to higher speed. So let's take it one step at a time. I would like to suggest that we come back maybe to a subcommittee, if you'd like that. I can hear the energy, and I don't want to deflate that energy. It's exactly the positive energy that we need. So maybe if the committee can have a subcommittee to meet with staff, maybe have a field audit, and see what we can do, understand more of the mechanics of this project, of this phase, and then see what else can be done for pedestrians right now. And again, it's not going to be, not going to preclude any future improvements. And I'll stop here in the interest of time.
I really appreciate those comments too, and I certainly understand. I also think part of my role is to push here, which is what I am trying to do. I did want to say one more thing for context, is that 3rd and B Street has, in the last 10 years, has 19 pedestrians that have gotten hit by vehicles. 10 bicyclists have gotten hit by vehicles, and 3 of those accidents are serious. So Again, when you're saying improvements to the intersection, like that is exactly what we need. And again, I think the reason that some of those numbers are so high is there's a concentration of some of our most vulnerable residents in that area, and the street needs to be designed to make it safe for everybody in that area. Okay, I really want to hear the public comment. I think that's where we're going to get ideas.
Okay, I think it seems like the commissioners are done speaking at the moment. So so yeah, let's open up to public comment and please let's get some additional input.
Okay, thank you, Chair Bergman. We do have 3 hands raised. I'm going to call them in order. Amy Lykover.
Thank you. I can't believe I stayed for the whole meeting. I just want to say, in addition to what Phil said, is that Beast Street it's an historic resource for the city. You have among our oldest buildings are on that street. And in order to be able to appreciate them, pedestrians have to feel safe. And it could be really, much more of an asset to the city if there were to be the slowdown, which the two-way traffic, of course, will provide, but also with the pedestrian experience. I love two-way streets. As soon as you change C and D, Rafat, I wrote to Jim Schutz and I thanked him. It was the most wonderful experience because it was just a log jam downtown, and B Street is the most wretched experience. I mean, as a pedestrian, as a driver, I hate it. And it really undermines the businesses. And I'm not talking about St. Vincent's, I'm talking about the new businesses that are starting. Another thing, please educate. Once you go two-way, please educate. Have those big signs, those electric signs telling people that you're changing it. I remember being in front of the post office on D Street that first week it went two-way, and people were driving up the wrong way. And I, basically had to like beat my horn and turn them around because it's by habit. So please make sure you have really good electric signs. And the other thing, as you know, I'm the chair of the Federation of San Rafael Neighborhoods, right? And while you said this was presented to our meeting when April Miller was there, she might have mentioned it, but there wasn't any discussion about it. And so what I would like to have would be your slideshow, and we'll put it on our website. Okay.
Thank you. I'll make sure to share that with you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So we have a couple more.
Yes. Next person, Lori.
Hi there. Thank you, Amy, for saying that, because you basically have really not done any public outreach. The outreach that was done on Nextdoor had the wrong day listed. You had 2 people in that meeting. In the Federation, as Amy said, it was mentioned. It wasn't a discussion. I don't know anybody who knows this is going on. I literally walked up and down B Street 2 weeks ago. The only company that I found that knew about this, and it wasn't from you guys, was the furniture company. So that's really not good public outreach. And I know that the new apartment building manager had not a clue about this until I literally made an appointment to go see her and talk to her about it, thinking that somebody had to have let them know, and nobody let them know. The other thing is I am requesting, please do not put in bollards. You're doing such a disservice to the public. If we have an emergency and you have to change those streets on a minute's notice, you can't do that with bollards. And I learned that going down Francisco Boulevard. There's no way to move those unless, I don't even know how to move them. They're just permanently there and made it so it's impossible to actually even get a truck down that road, let alone 2 cars. So that's a statement for all over San Rafael. Please don't do that. That's not okay. The other thing is, it seems like you just want to take all the cars off of B Street, which that's the only street that we can get down now. I will tell you that C and D Street, people are now going straight forward down, turning onto First Street, and then coming up B Street instead of making left turns on B and C Street. It's a little easier on C, but excuse me, D and C Street. D Street, you can't get more than 2 cars through that light with people coming north at you, but that's not changing. That's going to be a nightmare when you get to B Street, which, by the way, Nat's going to look like a fool when every single one of these meetings that I've seen him start saying, we're not going to change the parking, we're not getting rid of parking. And now all you guys are talking about getting rid of parking. To me, I'm sorry you don't understand that being a business owner, you would want parking in front of your business, especially the AV guy who, when people bring equipment in there, they're not going to be parking in a parking lot. They're going to need to bring their equipment in and stop their cars in front of a place. I will not park in those garages. I don't feel safe in those garages. I never have felt safe in those garages. I'm definitely not alone on that. And I don't think you can do anything about it. The other thing is you cannot speed down B Street because the lights aren't timed. So you can only get one block at a time. So bring a radar detector and check what you're saying. It looks like people are going fast, but trust me, we're not. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have one more.
Jean Servinghouse.
Yes, hi. I wanted to speak in strong support of Phil's vision of making B more pedestrian friendly and doing it on this project. For one, I think really important reason, whatever can be done with quick build and not adding a lot of cost would be ideal. People resist change, and it's a big change to make this change. I really support the change from a one-way to a two-way street. It's a great idea. I kind of avoid walking and biking on B Street because I'm pretty uncomfortable as a pedestrian there. So now is a really good time to make the change. Second thing is that the lane widths do look kind of wide, and I was looking at especially near St. Vincent's, and the sidewalks seem really narrow given the amount of people on them. And rather than saying, well, it's going to be too expensive to widen the sidewalks, what about taking 3 car parking spaces length and putting in some planters and some tables and chairs and flowers in the planters? So you have like a 3, little parklet basically of 3 parking spaces that gives just more space for the people who are coming on their bicycles. You could put bike racks in that 3 spaces. So people coming to St. Vincent's would have more space. I think obviously that idea needs to be developed more to make it work out well. And I think Phil has talked to somebody on the board perhaps of St. Vincent's, so maybe they have better ideas of using it, but I would encourage doing some kind of quick build that's simple. Instead of the whole street, just say, okay, we're going to do something right here where we have a maximum need. I really am grateful to hear Rafat suggest that you could do leading pedestrian intervals. That would be wonderful. It's made a big difference down kind of near the transit center. Really appreciate it. And adjusting the curbside management sounds really smart, given all the restaurants and bars. That would be great. And the new residences, I can imagine people really wanting to be walking to Safeway and have it be really pleasant to walk to Safeway. So that would be good. And finally, Rafat, thank you so much for saying you're spending $500,000 at 3rd and B to improve it for pedestrians. Hooray, that's fantastic news. It's really terrific. It hasn't felt very good for a long time. So this is exciting. And I kind of wanted to urge doing something, whatever little things you can do now with this project to make it better for pedestrians and bicycles, as well as the cars, would be great. Thank you so much.
Great. Well, thank you. I don't, Rafat, you had suggested possibly a subcommittee or something. I want to try to wrap this up. I know this has been a great discussion, but we're also running late and we still have a couple of agenda items we want to get through. So, but if the next step is to form a subcommittee, then that's a way for us to at least follow up on it and can continue with trying to take some of these ideas and see what might be feasible. So we have 5 members now, so we can only have a subcommittee of 2, correct?
That would be great. Yeah.
I would be interested. I suspect Phil would be.
All right.
I think Phil should be on it.
I think that would be great, and I really look forward to it.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you everyone from the commission and the public on those comments. That's very interesting stuff. Next item, grant application updates.
I'll be presenting this, and I'll be sharing an old presentation. Let me see if I can do that right. share screen. And this is all great news. I mean, I don't remember reporting the volume of good news that I've been reporting lately about transportation funding. I think Philip Mooney mentioned RM3, and that's a big deal for downtown San Rafael. This year, we went all out. I think the total exceeded $30 million of grant applications. We heard from some. We heard from the Safe Route, the SS4A. We did not get that money, but we did get the Adaptive Transportation Program for the Canal Bridge study. We did get the Canal Improvements, Pedestrian, Bicycle, Calming, Lighting for $5 million. We got the approval for Priority Development Area for the Canal and Northgate, $800,000 each. And we got the second and fourth intersection improvements that you saw that earlier in the evening. So we are still waiting on the HSIP, the High Safety Improvement Program, the federal fund on all of this HSIP projects. And we have one more that's not listed in this table, that is the SMART plan. It's not a SMART related to the rail, it is a SMART state grant. We applied for $2 million, and I think Nat reported on that application at the last meeting. We're expecting to hear beginning of March on that application. So you can see that links, you know, the summary of the applications and the volume of projects that are coming in. The environment is prime for funding applications that are well put together, and that is the future. And we will continue to be very aggressive with grant applications, and you know, partnering with TAM. TAM is doing a raise. There's a RAISE funding source that TAM is applying on for 2 projects in San Rafael, the Bellum, and for the Fridas Parkway interchange. So we'll be, we'll continue to submit more applications, but so far the money that's coming in is giving a major boost to our city. And most of it, the canal improvements is another project that will bring you more information about as we explore it more. Now that we have the money, it's going to bring major improvements to pedestrian, bicycle, and traffic calming in the area. That is my report for this evening.
Thank you, Rafat. That's great news. Congratulations, and great job all around on getting all that. That's an impressive haul.
It is.
Barry,
Okay,
can I ask a question?
yes, sure.
Rafat, the funding applications, are we doing that, staff doing that, or do you have consultants assisting you, or is that through another source? Or
It's all of the above. It's all of the above. For the funding a lot of these funding applications, like the last one, the SMART grant, we had because we were so busy with so many other applications, we saw the possibility for something that is highly visionary and highly smart city application. So we hired American Mobility Group to help us with that application. Parisi played a major role in turning in applications with a very short deadline. And we have other consultants working on that as well.
Okay, so next item. Let's see, we have housekeeping, discussion and vote to determine future meeting time and setting. So I'm not sure exactly what that is, but I'm sure staff had something in mind in putting it on there.
So during the December meeting that we had, there was a discussion about moving the start time from 6 to 7. And we do have the next following meeting that's coming up in April. That would actually be in person. I think recently it's kind of changed to more of a hybrid. I think one meeting in person, then one meeting in hybrid. And we just kind of wanted to see what everyone's thoughts were on that.
I wasn't at December meeting. Is there a reason it was, that someone had suggested we change the time?
I think the comment that we received was it was because of the running crunch after work or so, and they wanted to kind of see if they can start a little bit later on.
Why don't we poll everyone? This is Mark. I can make 7 o'clock.
I'm happy with anything. I do want to make sure for meeting in person, I think being online for public comment has been very nice. Will that continue even when we are meeting in person?
Yes, that will.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
I can go to 7 if we want to. I'd prefer to stay with 6.
I guess I'd like to hear from staff on that because this does this put more of a burden on staff? They're already working all day and then just kind of working through into the evening, later in the evening, if we push the time out to 7, start time to 7. Seems like
I think staff can work with either schedule. Honestly, I mean, we want to be sensitive to the needs of the committee members first, because we want to have a quorum. We don't want to cancel any meetings, especially that we meet every other month. But we also want to be respectful of. I think when the 6 o'clock comment or the 7 o'clock comment was made, it was about dinner too. I mean, you really don't want to be on when people are having dinner. So staff is very flexible. I mean, we can meet anytime you want.
I have no strong opinions. The idea for dinner is fine. I'm totally fine going to 7. That seems like it makes sense to me, that justification.
and I'd shoot for 6. I'd stay with what we had, 6.
And I'm happy with whatever. I don't know. Maybe I don't know how we'll decide. But.
Yeah, I don't either. I hear 2 7s and 2 6s so far, so we got a tiebreaker coming up.
Who hasn't weighed in?
Yeah. Oh man, it's me. I was about to say that I really don't care.
How about 6?
I mean,
Well, I for one haven't had dinner tonight, so 7 o'clock would be more amenable to that. And I also think it'd be more amenable to the public, because I hear what you're saying about deferring to the commissioners, but I also think having public participation and input is important.
What are the how are other commissions scheduled?
So city council meetings are actually scheduled starting at time at 7.
And how about other city commissions?
That's the only one I'm aware of so far.
Okay.
I think planning commission starts at 7 as well. I'll check real quick.
Yeah, I mean, if it's something where we, if it helps to be consistent with other commissions, maybe that makes it better for the public, or maybe like I said, I don't object if it's decided to go that way. It's just if I have my personal preference, then I'm going to say 6.
Does anyone remember what Anne thought about this at the last meeting? I thought she weighed in one way or the other. I just don't remember which way.
Can't recall.
For some reason, I thought she wanted it late too, but I'm not confident on that. I don't even remember how this idea started, but.
Barry, we're looking for your leadership here.
Well, if I'm going to suggest deferring it to the next meeting then, if we want to like to keep it as it is now, and then we can revisit it at that time, because it doesn't seem like we have a clear direction on this.
Okay.
That's fine by me, unless Rafat was going to look up other meeting dates. I don't know if he's, or other meeting time.
Planning Commission meets at 7. We're totally, we'll go with the commission on this one, as I stated earlier.
Okay.
You know, whatever you decide, we're fine with it.
I think we decided not to decide.
Okay, so we decided not to decide.
I would say, why don't we put it on the agenda again for the next meeting, and we can I'm just curious to know if other city meetings are held at 7, then it probably sends an easier message to the public to be consistent with all that. And we, and that's fine.
Okay,
but,
so the next meeting will be April 5th at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
That's
Barry, we just heard that 3 of the meetings here in the city start at 7. 2 of the big boys, the city council and the planning commission.
Right. No, but I know there are others, and I just don't know what those schedules are. So
is that going to be the determinant, is what other folks are doing?
I mean, it's not my decision. I'm giving my opinion, but if folks want to vote for 7, then I'm okay with going to 7.
Parks and Rec is at 6.
Parks and Recs is at 6.
Yeah, I just looked through a couple of them. All right, let's get all the information and bring it back next week. We can be quick. We could be faster than this about it next week. Did you mention that there was some in person versus online? What were the thoughts on that? Just so I know.
Let me just clarify. I think there is a state legislation or some state ruling that mandated that all public meetings be hybrid, basically with like the city council meeting is, with the body of the committee or the commission meet in person, and the public has a window to come in virtual.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so we'll meet in person at City Hall.
Most likely, and we have, Nat and I have meetings with city clerk to understand what that means. And so most likely the next meeting is going to be in person for all committee members.
Cool.
Except for me, I'll be in Ireland on April 5th.
Okay, well, you can join in virtually.
I'm sure my wife won't mind me waking her up at 3 a.m. so I can talk from the hotel room.
Okay.
Okay. Then it looks like we've gotten through our agenda.
Oh.
So motion to adjourn.
So moved.